So just today, the day this video is coming out, the OnePlus 6T has just been announced. But just 1 month ago, I chose to get a OnePlus 6 instead of the 6T, and I do not regret my decision. Let me explain why in this pseudo review of the OnePlus 6. First, let's talk about what's new with the 6T, at least what's been confirmed at the time of filming, which is pretty much everything because the CEO of OnePlus just can't help himself. So we know that it's ditching the headphone jack, and personally, I'm not ready for that. I don't want to buy wireless headphones or charge them, and I like charging my phone and listening at the same time. Lucky for me, the 6 still has a headphone jack. Next, it's getting an in-display fingerprint sensor. Now that's cool and all, but I personally prefer my sensor on the back of the phone, like on the 6. Noticing a trend here? Now, but if you are interested in in-display sensors, I got to check out one of the first ones at CES earlier this year, so you should definitely go check out that video. It's also getting a water drop notch. Now, this is actually cool, because less notch equals more screen, obviously, but it's just not enough for me when taking into consideration those first two pretty big drawbacks that I just mentioned. Now, on top of that, the 6's notch is already smaller than most of the competition anyways, so I mean, there's actual screen space for notifications and stuff, and not just two dinky little corners. And again, on top of that, OnePlus lets you hide the notch by turning off the pixels in that space. And since it uses an OLED screen, it can completely turn off those pixels, leaving it pitch black, blending it in with the frame and the notch, so it looks like there's no notch. Now, the one exception for this is in bright daylight, where you can actually see a difference between screen and frame. But for the most part, I don't really notice the notch anyways. That's why I chose to get the 6. The 6T has two major deal breakers for me, and the 6 is already such a great phone. And honestly, I'm not losing anything by going with it. It still has the latest and greatest Snapdragon 845 with 8 gigs of RAM and 128 gigs of storage. So performance is just as amazing, and it's gonna last just as long. It's not really last gen by comparison. It's just a different set of features that I so happen to prefer personally. So I chose to get the 6 instead of waiting for the 6T. I mean, by the time this comes out, the 6T will have just been announced, and I'll have had this phone for like a month, so okay. I guess now that I've made it clear why I went for the 6 over the 6T, I can continue with a full review of this device. So here we go. Best thing about this phone? Hands down, battery life. I get over 8 hours of screen on time and always get through the day easily. So with moderate to high usage, as in 3 to 6 hours of screen use and about 7 to 10 hours of standby, I usually end the day comfortably over 50%. Now, I could probably go 2 days on a single charge if I wanted to, but I just charge it every night while I sleep, and it's easy. Now, if I do need to charge it during the day for whatever reason, it goes from about 0 to 100 in about an hour and a half. 15 minutes of charging, and I'm good to go out for the evening. That's incredible. My old phone, the LG G5, has a removable battery, so I would just swap out the battery when it dies and never really had to charge it. But with the OnePlus 6, I don't really miss it because it just lasts all day. I don't need to replace the battery. It never runs out. It's amazing. Now, I don't know if it's just something OnePlus did or how much Android 9's adaptive battery is helping, but whatever it is, it's great. And that actually leads into my second favorite thing, a very close second favorite, stock Android. OnePlus's Oxygen OS is basically pure stock Google Android with a few minor tweaks. Now, for those of you who don't know, I'm a huge fan of Google's design. This delivers exactly that, without subjectively ugly skins. It also helps with performance since there isn't really any bloat that the manufacturer is adding on top of the system. Now, the best part of this is that it gets quick updates. The day I first opened the box, the first notification on this device that I ever got was update available. Android Pie had been out for just over a month, and it was already here. And it looks like I'll be getting fast updates for at least a few more years. My G5, made a whole video about the fiasco that was the late update on that, and it still, to this day, still has Android 7 Nougat. 7. Not 8, not 9, 7. And it has no update of any kind in sight. Now, having stock Android Pie on this phone it's amazing. I love it. The next thing I love about this phone is the screen. With no bezels and a taller aspect ratio, there's more screen to see and less phone to hold. What else is new? I think anyone watching at this point understands that concept. But seriously, the first time I used my G5 after about a week of using this thing, it felt like going back to my old iPhone 5 after I had gotten my G5. It's a smaller screen, and in this case the ginormous bezels just add to the feel of outdated tech, so I'm definitely loving this. On top of that, the OLED screen has more vibrant, brighter colors and deeper blacks than the G5's LCD. Funny, because back in my original G5 review, I said that I preferred LCDs as they were more accurate than OLEDs, which were oversaturated. Now, that was 2 years ago, and I think from that point with the S7 and stuff to now, OLED technology has definitely matured, making this a beautiful screen in my opinion. Now, this phone doesn't have an always-on display entirely. It has lift to wake, kind of. You see, when you lift the phone, that's when you get your typical always-on display. It doesn't fully turn on, it just shows you some information at a glance, like time, battery, notifications. The rest of the screen is black, so it saves battery, it's less distracting, and it easily shows you the key information, and I definitely appreciate that. Now also, sometimes, not always, but a lot of time, the screen doesn't turn on when I get a notification. Now the name of the app and the notification pops up, yes, but the rest of the screen is black. Now this helps with battery life for sure, and that's always a plus. Now, another great thing about the phone, in the same ballpark as the performance, is the fingerprint scanner. Now, I've heard some people say that it's slow, but for me, it is incredibly fast. The camera is also great. I don't really take many pictures on my phone, personally, but for those that I do, it's definitely more than adequate. Now, it may not be Pixel or iPhone level, but for the most part, it's not far off, and that's more than enough for me. MKBHD actually did a camera comparison not long ago where he included the OnePlus 6, so go check that out if you are genuinely interested in the camera. Okay, now on to some things that I didn't like. The biggest con for me is that some parts of Android Pie are missing. One of the very few changes that OnePlus made to stock Android is that they removed some stuff from the overview screen specifically. Now, the ability to select text without going into the app doesn't work. And the frequent apps and search bar at the bottom isn't there. And I'm more sad about the first one, but still, come on. Another thing is the navigation bar. No, this has nothing to do with my last video about gesture navigation, although you should definitely check that out if you haven't already. My complaint is that you can't make the nav bar dark or transparent. It's white, unless you use a third-party app to cover it, which is a meh solution, to be honest. Also, the speaker is straight up garbage. Okay, so I'm recording this on the OnePlus 6 and on the microphone here. And then I'm going to play this back through the mic so you guys can see how bad these speakers are. Okay, so I'm recording this on the OnePlus 6 and on the microphone here. And then I'm going to play this back through the mic so you guys can see how bad these speakers are. Okay, so I'm recording this on the OnePlus 6 and on the microphone here. And then I'm going to play this back through the mic so you guys can see how I'm not even pressing hard on it. I'm just putting my finger there. Ugh. Lucky for me, I almost never use it because I have a roommate and I like my privacy. And, headphone jack, all that I was talking about before. Yeah, that's right. Now, I have a few more complaints, but these ones are just kind of nitpicking. When you're plugged in and charging, it doesn't tell you if it's fast or slow or dash charging. You kind of just have to guess based on the rate of increased percentage, so some kind of indicator would be nice. And another thing I kind of already mentioned, you can see the notch in direct light. Now this one really isn't a big deal because it's not that noticeable, but I really don't want to see a notch or acknowledge its existence. Now, luckily those are getting smaller and smaller now, so I'll just have to bear with it for the next 2-3 years until I upgrade my phone again. That's it. That's all my complaints really. And most of those can really just be fixed with a software update, except for the speaker, which is... Now overall, using this phone is great. Whether it's the stock Android, all-day life, or amazing screen, this phone is just a joy to use, and I'm glad that I got it. This is close to being the perfect phone in my eyes. Do I recommend getting a OnePlus 6 now, even considering that the 6T was just announced just hours ago? Absolutely, yes. Well, that's all for this video. If you enjoyed, please leave a like and subscribe if you want to see more cool videos like this one. If you have any thoughts about OnePlus 6, 6T, anything like that, leave a comment down below. Also, don't forget to follow me on Twitter at SolidStateTweet to get the first updates on absolutely everything. And as always, I will see you guys in the next one.